Ho, 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 you know how it goes. I'm Nico,
And I'm TK.
and that makes this X's for Podcast, your one and only one-stop shop for all things super cool comics broadcast about holiday comics and whatever. I'm super excited.
I too am quite excited.
You know, every now and then a holiday comes along that's just so holodorific that you got to just base an entire season of comics programming around it, and that's Halloween.
Yes.
But then there is literally this weird era that we enter as we get a little bit further into the calendar year, where they're sort of like, well, Thanksgiving and maybe even Veterans Day, I guess, and let's just also kind of shove some Christmas in there because we gotta. But also, we have a lot of other cultures. Let's make sure to celebrate each of them in an 8-page story. And it's really fascinating to me how it just sort of becomes holiday times for the sort of like months of November and December.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Halloween immediately because the Halloween vibes are almost always entirely immaculate. Mostly because Halloween isn't a religious holiday. Like it's not a heritage. It is a cultural holiday for primarily Americans. But it is not an ethnic cultural holiday. It's not a religious holiday. It's not important. It's really important to feeling your spooky oats, but it's not. People aren't hanging anything on it. There's no resolutions. There's no reflection. There's no gift giving. Most of the time, you really can even get away with just turning your lights off and saying nobody's home and not giving out candy. Or you luck out like me and the kids don't go to your neighborhood. Halloween, it's pretty easy, but the vibes really are immaculate. The books are really fun. The biggest problem for me with Halloween is that there's not more of it. Christmas and the holiday season is tough to do, and I'm just gonna say right now, nobody succeeded in the A range. I was unaware that there are no Jews in the DC universe, but would you like me to believe anything else? You will need to work harder next year, DC.
I just kind of can't understand, and I don't know how else to put it, but like, I don't understand how like no part of Batman's heritage or none of the Robins. Like I feel like the idea of Batman is so centralized to that idea of the origin of modernized comics. It's just so incredible to me that so many of the era have that sort of, we understand that the Jewish creators that made these things need to be shown in some way. I can't believe Batman doesn't.
Like, Martha Wayne could be Jewish. Like Batman could be Jewish because Martha Wayne is Jewish. I get that, like,
Yes.
the Wayne money is old money, and there's a point to that. And I'm not saying they should be the Waynewitzes, but I went there. I said it. I did it. But Martha Wayne could be Jewish. Ma Kent could be Jewish. There's Jews in the farmlands. 4 billion Green Lanterns on Earth. One of them could be Jewish. I mean, it's not, I bet one of them is, but they were not featured in the 19 stories DC managed to cram into one book, which God bless them for that, because Marvel felt very stingy by comparison. I constantly find myself, because we do this show and we compare books and we read DC books, I'm reading them on the same day I'm reading Marvel books. It has happened too often since we started doing this that I finish the Marvel books and I go, that was it? Because the DC books are just often longer and often more stuffed with stuff. And while it's not always good, it is not that them stuffing it, they stuff in a bunch of low quality stuff, and then it's just like, well, I would rather have Marvel's good pizza, less of Marvel's good pizza than more of DC's bad pizza. DC's pizza is just fine when they stuff these books.
And there's so many jokes we can make about, bigger is better, or no, it's how you use the page space, but it's actually got to be both. Because, yeah, there's times where I feel a little ripped off when the page count is lower and the content is thinner and the price tag is still way up there.
Yeah.
In that instance, it really is, maybe bigger is better, guys. It can happen that you should give us the extra couple of pages, but there's also a lot of times in these DC ones where I'm like, this was the same story 4 times, but this was the this person version, this was the this person version, and like when it's along cultural lines, yes. When it's Guy Gardner, no.
Did you feel that way about this? About Batman Smells Robin Laid an Egg?
Yeah.
I did not, because I don't know. I think it's an I don't know enough thing.
Well, I mean, like, but like I felt like like they all felt like the same sort of Christmas pastiches.
It felt like the entire anthology was doing Christmas pastiche, but I don't know. I felt like I thought they were mostly good stories. Like I was very surprised. I was very disappointed that there was not a single Jewish story, and I give Marvel so much credit. We got a Christmas, we got a Jewish, and we got New Year's. And you know, and when I say a Jewish, I mean Hanukkah. Just calm down. Not you, the audience.
I mean, not a lot of people know this, but your last name really is Elementowitz.
Yes, that's correct. Changed it to Elemental when we came over to Ellis Island, but yeah,
that's Ellis Gray Island.
Yes, where I became a doctor.
You and Nev Campbell.
I don't know. Man, that Bane story was fantastic, and like it's kind of non-denominational because it's just like a Secret Santa, but.
And it's with Scandal. I love Scandal so much.
Sure, I never met her, but as soon as he named her, I was like, oh, that's Vandal Savage's daughter. Clearly, I know enough. I can get through this. But yeah, the big two suck during the holidays. They really do, for different reasons. It's so funny. The stuff I give Marvel crap for, they're always doing better than DC. Well, not all of the stuff, but like 2 really big things. I always give Marvel so much crap for not being Jewish enough and not doing enough Jewish stuff. And then by comparison, this is Synagogue on a Saturday Night compared to DC, which there's literally, I imagine some of the characters are Jewish, but if there was a reference to being Jewish or Hanukkah in these, I do think it is 8 stories. I missed it, and it was not obvious. It was not obvious in the same way that it was in the Marvel book. And it's really similar to when I've been hitting Marvel really hard on the fact that I don't think there's enough women. I don't think women are writing the right books. Or rather, I should say, I think men are writing books that women should be writing. And then, DC comes out with their announcement of their slate at Comic-Con, and there's no women on the panel, and there's no women on the books. So, it's funny to engage with both of these two. And Marvel is my oldest friend. I have really high expectations of them because they have taught me about so many things, and they've entertained me, and they've made me laugh, and they've made me cry. And DC is a new friend, and I am weirdly forgiving of the new friend because I'm not trying to disturb the friendship. And I'm weirdly hard on the old friend because I know what they can do.
I really think comparing these two friends is really like the heart of this.
Yeah.
Because
they're both your old friends. I get it.
Well, but like I know one better.
Yeah, of course.
I got a closer friend.
Yeah.
And then like I'm still
That'll
like,
happen.
hey,
that's allowed.
You can come to the party too. And like, I feel a little bad because I've spent so long being like, ho, 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 no, Robin's here. And like, now I'm like, Merry Batsmas. I'm sad now. But the big thing here for me was that I maybe felt like we've kind of hit a pandery point with a lot of holiday storytelling.
Yeah.
And in comics in particular, but we're pandering to comic story holiday telling, comic holiday. Like, because like, first off, # number 1, right? There is holiday tropes, right? There is do have yourself a merry little Christmas around the fireplace. There is, somebody burned the turkey and now we're all getting pizza. There's car ride to family place, and then there's the classic stories. There's Christmas Carol doing some version of Scrooged, or maybe doing a take on Ebby Scrooge. That's the Vanessa Williams version. or maybe doing a take on the OC's Christmas Carol. Wait, I think everything is just a Christmas Carol. I'm sort of kidding, but I'm not. So then from there, certain things evolved into being the staples of comics, even though they aren't necessarily still the staples of modern storytelling in a classic way. I don't know that there are a whole lot of murder, revenge, noir stories around Christmas for the most part. But, I think Road to Perdition has snow in it. So, like...
What's the point you're making there?
Okay, so like sitcoms have their own set of tropes, and it's always like someone's up there singing "'Tis the Season in Our Souls," and somebody comes in and says "Yummy fruity,
pebbles in our bowls."
Ho ho ho! I'm hungry. Santa. So there are these things that are like specific to television. Toys coming to life is such a big one at the holidays.
Yeah.
Because it's Nutcracker Suite as much as it's, Toy Story. And in comics, there are certain ones that are so comic centric and comic forward. The one that I was really pleasantly surprised by was the Kitty Pryde one. It is the one that I give the highest marks for an unusual reason, and I'm excited to talk about it. But the one that I give the lowest marks to, and it's not that I'm even coming for it, I am just laughing hysterically about it. Dr. Midnight in Silent Night. What the fuck was that? It was great. It was legitimately a beautiful 9-panel storytelling piece, but by putting it in a Christmas anthology, DC cheapened the value of what could have been a beautiful piece in one of the later Vertigo color anthologies, in a really tight DC relaunch a la All In kind of book. It was a beautiful story, but to try and pass it off as a Christmas story, even though Christmas is part of it, cheapened the power for me.
I literally did not know Dr. Midnight was a character.
I mean, I even think that about him a lot.
Yeah, I didn't know that character existed, and I kind of went to go look and see if that was a Midnighter precursor or alternate version or something, because I know Midnighter, and he's got the moon on his head, so, probably. But alas. So, like, bargain basement expectation. I mean, literally, I could not have any expectation. I didn't know the character. I thought it was beautiful. I do get the point that you're making. And I also, I love Silent Night, Silent Story. It's very enough said. Probably it could have been Dream. It could have been
Wesley Dodds.
Yeah, I mean there's a billion people that it could have been who are a little peppier in your steppier, a little higher profile. I wasn't super in love with Deadman either. But we'll get there when we talk about that. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think I think even for me, it might be the Miles story was my favorite.
Oh, was your favorite?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we're going to have to disagree on this one. I thought you were going to say it was your least favorite.
No, I think it might have been my favorite. I loved all three of the Marvel stories. We'll talk about that more. Least favorite, it actually may be... no, it was the Deadman one. I really hate the Deadman one. That guy creeps me out. I hate looking at him. He seems really unfun.
Not Boston. You hate Boston? Did you hear that, everybody? He said he hates Boston. Everybody in Massachusetts get real mad at him.
Perk up your ears. You're all shitty drivers. Your town makes no sense. And everything's too expensive. Why are hotels so expensive, you guys? There's nothing to do there. What are we doing?
Plus, the song's not great either. Boston, Augustana, anyone?
Oh yeah, no, that song makes me want to fucking. Sorry, no, yeah, that's not a good. You are correct. That is not a good song.
To do a really, really, really dated reference.
Yes, more than a feeling doesn't.
That gave me more than a feeling. You got.
I was gonna say that doesn't. It does not do a ton for me. It gives me less than a feeling. Anyway, yeah.
As a former Bostonian.
Yes. Well, near Boston. No, not Tufts. Anyway.
So, okay, I want to
Yeah.
start in on a story that
Oh
I
yeah,
have a
we
lot-
have a fourth story that has nothing to do with Christmas, but has to
But
do
it's-
with religion,
holiday.
heritage.
It was like it was published like on Thanksgiving in the month of Veterans Day, like just like a few weeks before Hanukkah, which
Yeah.
you know.
Are we starting with this?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
I loved and didn't know what to do with Avengers Assemble 23.
Yeah.
It had the best of intentions, but it
You
did not-
oversold it to me.
Yeah, I did because
Yeah.
I really.
What'd you
when
think I was going to say? No.
No, when I was like scrolling it, I was like, "Oh wow!"
Yeah.
And then when I kind of sat and read it,
Yeah.
it reminded me of one of the problems that I'm gonna call up later. But Teak, I don't know if you're aware, but Silent Night Returns is the sequel to Silent Night from 2023.
I sure am aware of that.
And so it had this moment in Batman Robin Laid an Egg where Jon Stewart is like, I've never met Santa. No, dude, you definitely were in Silent Night with Santa. You were with Santa, dude. So I felt kind of like, why are we doing that story, man? You should see how Clark reacts to Santa Claus. If you read Silent Night, the first one,
Yeah.
like literally there's
Which I
this
intend to.
scene where Batman is like, yeah, I know Santa Claus. And Clark just goes, you never told me you know Santa.
Yeah.
And
See, this is why you're the Superman and I'm the Batman.
you know, I actually turned to Kevo and I said to him earlier today, oh Jesus, I'm Superman.
Yeah.
And then there is one other thing I do need to show you because you will laugh till you cry for me. Please talk while I pull this up.
Sure, I will talk. I don't know why we're talking about this right now because I thought we were talking about the Avengers Academy issue. But that's okay. I'm here for it. I'm super down. Oh, nice. Very nice. DC, what's it called?
DC Heroes vs. Villains Match
Thank you.
3.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated game.
Yes. So yeah, where are we going with this, and how does it relate to Avengers Academy?
That was a Superman as Santa Claus from DC Marvel Heroes 3 and like super cool Santa colors. It's gonna go on my Tom of Finland list.
Yeah, you play this game. This is a match 3 game, so the characters, while somewhat important, sort of are just cosmetic and just to have. And yeah, you know, you got Christmas Superman, which I love, and I love to see. I love those colors. I think he's very cool.
He's so hot. But okay, so
what does all of this have to do with Avengers Academy? Where are we going?
I think this thing happens sometimes when a book is treated as second tier.
Mm-hmm.
And Avengers Academy is doing this stuff with this character where Captain America is like, there's this moment where like I can clearly see myself. I can like see myself referencing people being like, Tim Hunter will be the most powerful person in the DC universe. And I can see myself having these arguments when I'm 18 years old in a comic shop being like, did you even read books of Magic Life during wartime, dummy? And like, I have these clear moments, but like, in retrospect, I can see, even though everybody was doing their best, I think it's Cy Spurrier, Dean Ormstead, Neil Gaiman supervised in some capacity, I believe. And this book, this wild book about an alternate universe, Tim Hunter and John Constantine and Zatanna, but it was somehow major canon. It was never going to mean anything. But as a kid, I was like, I will die on this book. I brought up the Claremont Exiles. Die on that book. We will be lucky if things from life during wartime are mentioned once a decade. We are lucky if people even remember that there was 2 Claremont eras of Exiles in a row, totaling something like 45 issues. And then there's this moment in Avengers Academy where we're seeing this character who deserves so much, and this writer who is doing such a beautiful job alongside so many brilliant artists. And it's just so obvious that they're letting this book do so much that unless Anthony Oliveira is the one to get Avengers in 4 years and gets to write this group of people into the Avengers in a way that is such beautiful fan service, it's Judd Winnick basically writing his real world cast into everything he writes. I just can't see this book having the impact it's meant to.
Does that happen?
His Exiles basically reads like the real world.
I have to revisit that. I never
It's 6
thought about
strangers picked to live in a time travel machine,
yeah.
going around and experiencing
Who's
life
Puck?
as they know it. I think it has to be Proudstar, but then
Huh.
he gets all zen about it.
Huh. Okay, I'm gonna pray
So
on
we get like post Puck.
Huh. Yeah, I'll pray on that. We're gonna maybe have to do an entire episode on that because that's exceedingly important. My obsession with Judd Winnick is rivaled only by my obsession with Marvel Comics broadly, so that could be key. Anyway, number one bummer, first big bummer. Really appreciate the allyship, really appreciate the knowledge, of comic history, Jewish tradition. I know Anthony Oliveira is well versed in religion. He published a book about it. He's published a lot that demonstrates the chops. There is no doubt about that. He's not Jewish. And I don't know. Jewish people don't get to write Jewish stuff for Marvel Comics ever. These days. I mean, it's so funny. Like, Jewish people were coding Jewish stuff into Marvel Comics at its start, but really like blatant stuff. And again, we have Tom Brevoort getting on there being like, we didn't think it was a big deal when we said Ben Grimm was Jewish. And I know he's trying to do that in a positive way, being like, we just thought, hey, but like, I hate that answer, especially because then people told you it was a big deal. So we don't need to know that you didn't think that. I need to know about the fact that it was and that it meant something. And yeah, I mean, like, I really appreciate that Aaron Fisher is Jewish and that is canonical and discussed, and that this deals a lot with Jewish tradition and Jewish heritage and Jewish cultural, the weavings of Jewish cultural fibers into like Marvel's New York. All very cool things. It's like, Anthony Oliveira, okay, like, where is anybody for whom this is actually their experience?
That winds up being how I feel about that Brevoort quote in particular, where he's like, I just thought it was doing my job. I didn't care. He almost says it like, I didn't care that it helped Jewish people. It got me paid.
Yeah.
Like, that is a little bit the problem. It's certainly not his intent, and it's certainly not the words he said, but it's the callous way, the words of, I didn't think it was a big deal.
The flippant way, the kind of like, yeah. It doesn't matter that you didn't think that. Like, I get what you're saying, and historically that might be relevant, but like, the spirit of the question is about the fact that it was important. So talk about that.
And evolve it. Don't just confirm it. Evolve it.
Right.
I feel like in how long it's been since Ben Grimm was confirmed to be Jewish, we're getting like literally flaming menorahs in the sky.
Yeah.
Which is cute. Thank you, Jerry Duggan. And it's adorable and funny. But it doesn't feel like a discussion of how Hanukkah isn't just Jewish Christmas.
Yeah.
And we're just sort of like appropriating vibes.
Yeah.
But like, we're doing it to the Jewish community. Like, it's sort of like somebody one time was like, oh, you don't want to hear Merry Christmas? What do you have that's Christmas?
Right.
That's your Christmas now.
Yeah.
And like,
we will now just be listening to Adam Sandler's Hanukkah song for all eternity. Or my preferred Jewish Christmas song, Christmas Wrapping by Say Ferris.
It's deep in your soul.
It really is. It's a really good Jewish Christmas song that absolutely captures my experience, both as a lover of the genre of ska and it being a song about being Jewish on Christmas. It's a great song.
I'm definitely a big fan of Tori Amos's Kosher all these years. and I don't hate.
Celebrate.
For evidently 8 days. As I can't wait to talk about in the kitty story. So I just want to wind this one out with it was well intentioned. I give it a strong B.
Yeah, it was really good. It was like I said, Anthony Oliveira is a great writer, and he has the shot. Everything about it is there, except for the fact that Marvel doesn't have enough Jewish characters. They don't get enough screen time. They don't get to talk about being Jewish, and Jewish people don't get to write them. Like, talking about not thinking putting Jason Lowe on Dazzler is maybe the best idea. It's the same thing. Jason Lowe is amazing. Dazzler's fantastic. Women don't get to write enough women. Dazzler, these solo women titles are all over the From the Ashes relaunch, and there's just not enough women attached to them. There are to some, and that's great, but we're not at this point where, like, if you get a couple in there, you've righted iniquity. There's women could be staffing the entirety of the Marvel creative office for 5 years, and that would still not get us where we need to be in terms of, the gender iniquity at Marvel. So, I don't think it's crazy unreasonable to just be like, there should just be more women writing these books, period, no matter what. And similarly, like, Jews do not get enough screen time in mainstream comics. And the really interesting thing about Jewish people is, like, Jewish people in America are by and large fine. Our culture is one that has, for the most part, built up a lot of clout, built up a lot of community. We are almost all white passing. White people and white passing people. Anti-Semitism is a thing, but, like, when I was a little Jewish boy who's like the kids in my school drew Nazis on drew swastikas on my pogs, I went home, and did not face discrimination for any way that I looked on a daily basis or anything like that. The Jewish experience is one of quite a lot of privilege, is ultimately what I'm saying. So this is not the same thing as, talking about the experience of Black people in comics, talking about Asian people in comics, talking about trans people in comics. These people who their day-to-day life is so often lacking both in privilege and representation, that it really just, you can't help but see just the entire injustice right there. It is more complicated for Jewish people because we are well placed in the entertainment industry a lot of the time. We tend to be better off, have safe communities. We just are underrepresented. And it's a very interesting place to be able to have a voice to speak to the experience of underrepresentation, but to have the safety and the backing of so many other privileges that make it so that this isn't a constant struggle. It does mean that, I hold things to a standard and I can see when it's not being met, but I also am really realistic. I would sit in the back and wait for a lot longer for that Jewish representation, to see trans representation, to see Black representation, to see women representation in comics, because the iniquities there are pretty insane. So that's kind of my last word on that. Even though it is a place that I can come from and say, yeah, this isn't great, I can also say that, like, it's interesting because this culture as a whole is okay.
And that's a great segue, because Kitty Pryde is a woman and Jewish. And Chris Claremont almost made her Black one time. So,
yes. And did make her say the N-word.
So many times. Oh my God. It was like he was getting paid per horrifying thing he should have never done. But anyway, that's just the past. So let's just pretend it's not. Let's just pretend and keep giving him books. But anyway, actually, no, that he has apologized for. I do want to say he has gone on to specifically apologize for that. For a number of years, he actually kind of held fast. But in reprints, he has had them censor it.
Yeah. And
I think that is actually super classy and super speaks volumes about his quality of evolution.
Yes.
Okay. The Marvel Holiday Tales to Astonish. I actually love the name the more I think about it. Super cute.
Yes.
Okay, here's why I loved the kitty story. It traps Marvel in their own lie, and it makes life harder for them. When you tell me that Kitty can't ever evolve, she can't ever grow, I want to make a point here that I think might sound a little wild, but I think when you think about it, it's kind of right on. If you imagine that Wolverine is Batman, then Kitty Pryde is Dick Grayson, then Rogue is Jason Todd, then Jubilee is Tim Drake, Laura is Dami, and you can put Akihiro wherever you'd like as long as he's always mine. But the thing that then generates is we see Dick Grayson, we see Nightwing lead the DC fucking universe as an adult man all the time. We don't see that from Kitty Pryde. And then here's this issue that comes along that says, do you know how many canonical Christmases Kitty Pryde has had as a Jewish woman? That she can say to a seemingly immortal, not really, everybody overhypes that, seemingly immortal man, I've had so many superhero holidays, I can barely even count them. And the fact that every one of them didn't have a checkout Uncanny X-Men 143 was so dumb, because almost every single one of these could have had a moment to, this vaguely happened around here. And I don't know why they said it like this, but this story was great because it was a great story. And now you guys kind of have to promote her to adult.
And I mean, Kitty's a weird one. They have promoted Kitty to adult. It's just sort of a nebulous adult. And Kitty physically and emotionally and like numerically has aged, but she often gets stuck in the rut of who Kitty was. The fact that until right before Krakoa, we were still doing Will She or Won't She with Piotr, with Colossus, was a little bit just like, okay, like,
Merry Christmas, sexy. You just hit the mistletoe jackpot.
This is not Angel and Buffy. Like, this is your high school sweetheart that, like, of course you loved them in high school, but then you go through a lot of life and you're like, that's never somebody I was going to marry. And like, then that's your friend. And like, maybe you fight sometimes because you're like, you were just like this when we were dating, but that was also so long ago. It can't possibly matter anymore. And that feels much more authentic to who Kitty is than is he or is he not her OTP? It's her high school boyfriend that also, she was 14. He was 19. Like, so much, like, we move on.
And people have a problem with her and Pete Wisdom. How old could he have been?
Like 35.
35. Yeah, 40, 35. How old could he have been? How could that have been a problem?
It's way, way worse. The other thing that we did not talk about, most important part about this whole thing, our old friend drawing this story.
Yes.
Come on.
No, I mean, very positive. You know, one of the things that I think when I think about putting people on books for the holidays is that, like, sometimes you put people on books that you wouldn't necessarily put on a holiday book. And that winds up being one of those decisions that I find fun.
Yeah.
But Pat O'Leaf does not.
It was not who I would have chosen, but so audience, for anybody who doesn't know, because we definitely don't bring it up 5 times an episode when we're talking about comics, Nico and I have covered every page of Spider-Girl and basically every bit of Spider-Girl content up until, like, we did miss a couple things in this last 12 months that we need to discuss, but very little. I went and checked it all out. She's just present a couple times.
Hey guys, it's me, May.
You think she gets dialogue? But yeah, we have covered everything Spider-Girl. Please go back and check our previous podcasting coverage for that. We are very dedicated to the MC2. We love it very much, and the MC2 could never have happened without the work of Pat O'Leaf. So he shares a very special place in our hearts. He is not my favorite artist of all time. And he does not appear very often these days in Marvel books. So it was a treat to see an old friend, but also we get so little Christmas, we get so little holiday content from Marvel, and it tends to be so walking an unnecessary tightrope of, make sure it's Christmassy, but say holiday, but don't say holiday. That it's just kind of like we only get a few chances at these, and those chances aren't really chances. So I don't want to, even if it's an old friend and an artist I love, sometimes I'm just like, oh, but we could have gotten like Skeety or like RB Silva, because we got Noto on the Fantastic Four story, which was so amazing.
I want to riff on that because like I think
Go.
my problem is that like you know what, there are so many holiday issues in the MC2 that like you know what, Pat O'Leaf, that's a Christmas man. But you know what, because he's older as an artist in the stable goes, he feels like an old-timey man. And making it old-timey and Christmas, one negates the other. They just cancel each other out. It's like you can either do like an old-timey song and be like, this is Christmas, or you can do a Christmas song, but you can't do an old-timey sounding new Christmas song without it just sort of sounding like, oh, all right, you liked the Ronettes. And like, it's where I love her, and I'm not trying to come for who I'm going to try and push for calling her Sabby Karkar, but Sabrina Carpenter has a lot of like legitimately, with love, Sabrina Carpenter, you're so much greater than I am. Sabrina Carpenter has some really fucking stupid Christmas songs that are basically a song, and she replaces I Miss You with Fuck Me Santa and then adds a sleigh bell, and that's how it's Christmas. And I feel like it's that thing it's that overlap. It's too old-timey, so it feels familiar in a way that distracts from the Christmassy parts. And that's what Pat O'Leaf's art kind of does for me. But, in that same way, Phil Noto's art is like, it's like the Thomas Kincaid collection in Walt Disney World. Like, you can't not see how you're like, oh, Master of Light, it's Christmas.
Yeah. Yes.
Yet, this did not feel like his Christmassiest work.
Noto?
Yeah.
Has Noto done a lot of Christmas work?
No, but so much of his stuff, like with Emma Frost, everything is always like Queen Frostine levels of white blue.
Oh, wait, did he do some Christmas work in Dark Web? No, he didn't. He just did that X-Men book that was amazing. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean 1000%. It's, know, Noto is always a yeso, but
Yes.
I feel like he has varying shades of notoriety. And this was not a Noto from me, dog, but he just did not hit the bullseye toe.
I actually do kind of, I'm looking at it now and I do kind of hear what you're saying. This also, I feel like I'm gonna go on the colorist a little bit.
That's where it is for me, yeah.
Because
Because Noto usually colors himself.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wait,
well,
there was a colorist on this? Holy shit! You mean Noto?
No, you're right. You're right. It says artist, and everything else has a color. Yeah, you're totally right. Okay, so yeah. Okay, your point is 100% valid, and you're allowed to keep talking.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. But it was a really fun issue, and the Noto art was gorgeous. I think you're right. It just could have been Christmassy. I definitely hear what you're saying. Also, guys, just everybody. I don't know who the head of whoever edits Fantastic Four is. The mustache isn't funny anymore. It was kind of funny 2 years ago when this all started.
It is appropriative of prep users and first responders.
You're the worst.
And I think
But right.
it is time to give the stash back to the fags and the heroes.
Yeah. Yes. But no, you did a good job drawing it. Yeah. Fantastic Four story was really fun.
Boombots.
Yes. The Kitty Pryde story was
That's a trap.
felt like a little bit of a trap. No, it's beautiful. I mean, it captured a lot. I think I'm a little more interested in what Kitty Pryde in Chicago. Is she in Chicago right now? Is that where they are? Where's Exceptional X-Men happening? I think it's Chicago.
Oh my god, I forgot that was the name of the book. I was gonna be, what is it called? Deep Dish X-Men?
Yes.
That's my new favorite.
Holy
title.
shit.
Holy
Kevo,
shit.
cut this out of future episodes because we can't let people hear it. We need to save that. That's our pitch.
That's the best book ever.
No one can know. We will need to be saving that anyway. I'm more interested in what Kitty Pryde today is doing for her holidays. I fully acknowledge that even though Marvel claims that like 5 years have passed since the original X-Men started, that Kitty apparently had 8 years of Hanukkahs. Math ain't mathin', but we live to fight another day. Beautiful story. It does, I think it captures the Jewish. Here's a good one. Daniel Kibblesmith, Jewish. I assume actually it's.
Yeah, I don't. I'm like, I honestly.
Yeah, nailed it. Okay. I thought I checked, and I think I did check, but then as I'm running my stupid mouth on this show, it was not 100%.
I think you mean your accurate mouth in this.
Jonah did this a few months ago with Leah Michelle, of all people, because he wasn't sure if she was actually Jewish like Rachel Berry. And considering her number of Christmas albums, I kind of get it.
Yeah. Is she Jewish?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah,
so,
actually.
Again, phew.
It's shocking to me because she can't read in English. I would be amazed if she was able to make her bat mitzvah by reading the Torah.
That was my one slam for Avengers Academy that I forgot to do, and this is how you know Anthony Oliveira is not Jewish, because when he has Captain America talking about Arnie Roth, he says Arnie could drink anybody under the table, and if you know Jews, we are terrible drinkers. We are the worst drinkers. Jews watching this, do not lie and try and pretend like you can keep up. We cannot. Arnie absolutely did not drink people under the table. That is a terrible stereotype that is true. We are shit drinkers. Don't lie.
That explains why I'm such a terrible Irishman.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, don't lie. And non-Jewish people don't help us. We're not good drinkers. It's not the Manischewitz is not for that. Anyway, I did want to make sure I get that out there. Thankfully, Kitty Pryde doesn't drink at all in this issue, so we're fine.
Wait,
very cute.
A question. Can't women be rabbis now?
Yes.
So would they serve Womanischewitz?
Womanischewitz, I hate you.
Oh, fucking hate me.
Cute, fun, good story.
I just mumbled terrible.
Yes, good. Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page about this. Cute story, good, fun, fine. Glad a Jewish guy wrote it. That's nice too. Cool to see Pat O'Leaf. Actually, I do think his art style, he's like drifting into Davis territory.
Yeah.
He's aping Davis a little bit, which was fun. And then we get a lovely little Miles Morales story about New Year's. Well, it's a Spider-Man story about New Year's, but it's focused on Miles.
To make an interesting point, I think one of the things that it's important to consider about both of these characters is that they are most regularly defined by their signature writer of the last 20 years, Brian Michael Bendis. Now, while Bendis never wrote Amazing Spider-Man, he did create Miles Morales, and the truth of the matter is, his New Avengers ported over his Ultimate Spider-Man voice. At the time, the only other book running Spider-Man that was considered the book was JMS's. And JMS's Spider-Man, it's a really powerful meditation on what I think Bendis's Spider-Man isn't. And it's hard not to see how, what I mean beautifully here, this brave Jewish voice who fought his way through comics to become one of the strongest voices in comics. He gave Miles, a Hispanic black man, a lot of Yiddish phrases, and Peter Parker himself, also not Jewish, but he also, as a result of Bendis writing him, has a lot of Yiddish phrases and a lot of what we might consider that kind of like comedian style Paul Reiserisms. I trade on the quality of this is how I talk, and like you can hear it in the way Peter is continued to be written to this day. It's a style of humor I love and I think is spectacular. and amazing, I guess. But it's a style of humor that I do think is a little appropriative at times.
It's really interesting. Spider-Man, another one of those characters, the original Marvel flagship character created by Jewish men, very Jewish coded in a lot of ways. If they had said he was Jewish, you just wouldn't have to change anything about him. And like Bruce Wayne, his mom could have been like Spider-Man could be Jewish. To this day, Spider-Man could be Jewish. I think and again, like Bruce Wayne, we've gone too far to not have discussed it, but like, producer Kevo is sort of cracking into unknown Jewish roots in these last few years as an almost 40-year-old man. So like, it happens. Like it's oh my God, yes, thank you. We're saving those and doing a super cut. That was great.
I'll work on some more.
Yes, please do. Just keep on mugging. But yeah, like it's not the craziest thing in the world. And Spider-Man could be Jewish. I mean, that's not, Bendis wasn't making that point. And he certainly wasn't making that point about Miles. Though again, there are ways in which Miles could be Jewish if you wanted to do it. He could have the identities that he has and also have a Jewish identity. There's a lot of ways that could happen if they wanted it to. Again, none of this is Bendis's intention, but it's interesting that it could be there.
And for those of you who don't know, like 1/10 of the Mexican population is Jewish.
Yeah.
And so there are weirder things I've heard than someone with Latin roots, though of course Miles is Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Having this beautiful, culture as well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, no, I was gonna say I just don't know. I think this was a lot of fun, but it also reminded me why Spider-Man is always a tragedy.
Why?
Well, because Miles gets to make a friend, and then she's like, no, got the Rona. And he's like, all right, mask up, babes. I'ma go. And then he meets a dude, and the dude's like, hey, you want to be friends? And he's like, cool, all right. And then he's like, oh, no, a villain. And Spider-Man's like, hey, Miles, hey, you want help? And Miles is like, fine. And he's like, hey, cool dude, you want to be friends again? And the guy's like, nah, I fucking hate Miles, Spider-Man. And like, the whole thing does in fact kind of feel like a beat poetry moment, but it's one of those things where like, that's why, like 15 years ago, Marvel writer Jim McCann and Eisner winner Janet K. Lee did a singular picture style comic book called The Return of the Dapper Men. And end of the day, it's the most beautiful comic I've ever read to this day in my life. I actually have tons of original work by Janet because, hey, Janet, how have you been? I love you. She's become a friend. I think the world of her. And of course, Jim McCann, legendary soap opera writer, guy who was the singular voice of Hawkeye at Marvel for 6 years. They crafted a story that was kind of predictable. And in its predictability, it explored the things we expect about narratives that are predictable. And I think I don't mind that this felt sort of like a by the numbers torture Spider-Man story. I instead appreciate it, though have to note it.
I get what you're saying. And, kind of thing, I really got lost in the, like, Spider-Man always are brothers, and that kind of, the ending that they have together, just being friends, being spider friends. But you're right. Like he does the particularly the having to run and change. And so screwing over the friend and the friend no longer liking him. That's a very, Spider-Man is always a tragedy. I do see what you're saying. Another thing I thought that was interesting about this, just because we're talking so much about, cultural context and cultural writers. One cool thing I do like, again, this is sort of like, this is interesting ground, and it kind of depends on where it happens and how it happens, but Gene Lin Yang is not a black man or a Puerto Rican man, but he is a person of color. And I sometimes find it interesting when people of color who are not the race or heritage of the character they're writing get to do so. Again, we're kind of talking about addressing iniquity and addressing a lack of representation, addressing a lack of certain kinds of voices. And again, white people get to write whoever they want. They get to create the character. So it's not so important to me that men of a certain race always get to write women characters. Like, I'm much more focused on women getting to write women, and particularly women whose lived body experience is anything like the characters would be nice. But it's interesting to me when writers of minority identity get to interface with other characters of different minority identity. And I thought that was an interesting thing to note here. I thought it was an interesting moment and good overall, just for like Marvel representation. I thought it was a really lovely, well-written story. I think you're right, though. I think everybody could stand to, it's a very Coco Chanel thing. Look at your Spider-Man story and take off one piece of the Spider-Person gets screwed by life.
Well, I wish Coco Chanel would have taken off the swastika, you know
well,
what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, yes. God, what a terrible example. I wish she hadn't said that because it's such good advice. And she's the worst. But yeah, you know.
Coco Peru said, have you ever gotten cum in your eye, Gabriel? It burns.
So apply that to your Spider-Man stories, people. Thank you.
Webbing. Whip. Ah! So
I feel like web fluid and broken down. Anyway, I gotta go. I've always imagined. Anyway, that's all I'm saying. You know. Come on, guy. Don't you know? Anyway,
you can't go by me because my Spider-Man is Andrew Garfield. So it explains why I hero worship that guy. So anyway,
I'm British.
No, but you're a Spider-Man of the three.
Wait, he's the only one that has biological webs, is that right?
No, I think. Oh no, yeah, I think. No,
Toby has biological webs.
Yeah,
Andrew and Tom do not.
Yeah, and they're all like, "Ew, what?"
Right? Yeah. All right.
Speaking of ew,
DC.
What, I want to start with Silent Night.
Yeah.
I fucking hate having to do this. Jeff Parker is one of the best comic cartoonist style comic writers in Marvel DC history. He is a unique visionary who can also do complex serial dramatic work. He is such a legend, and I love him. This feels like it is aping Claus so hard, and just sort of sticking him in a book that is quote unquote with Batman. No, it's not. It's the DC universe teams up with Santa. Batman's barely in the original. I love Dammy. He is like one of my all-time favorite characters of all time. And I'm proud to say I was wrong initially hating him. And it was meeting Comic Canary, Evelyn, a trillion years ago, who was like, I'm going to bully you until you stop being mean to a fictional little boy because you've got feelings about not getting to be Batman's son. And I was like, oh, fine. I'll read him. I love him. And so like, I do wish that this was sort of Santa Robin Silent Night. But it's not. The original's really good. It's really strong. I love that Krampus actually is just possessed by Phantom Zone demons. So great. And Krampus is sort of like a really kind Solomon Grundy Bane type. And he's just like, Kringle, what has happened to Krampus? Where is Krampus? And Santa's like, it's okay. You're good now. The superheroes and I saved you. And again, he is just full on Dan Mora fucking trend out super Kringle. And Krampus is like that, but for demons, which does it for me. And so Krampus is like, yes, destroy the bad ones. And like, he still makes jokes about like, and eat children. And Kringle is like, no, Krampus, and not eat children. So it's sort of like Solomon Grundy, not born at a buffet on a Thursday. But this sequel, halfway through it, I think, and it doesn't have quite as much plot as the first one does. Oh yeah, I know.
Sure about that, bro?
Bro, this is so much less dense than the first one. Oh, yeah.
Ooh, boy. That's
I remember
like not
the
a
first being
selling
8
point.
issues.
I
4.
that's now I'm like, maybe I'm not reading it. This was a lot. Robin. Oh my god, it applies. That's so funny. That's great. Anyway, this was very dense. I mean, like, I really appreciated how this just felt like any of the number of not main continuity, Elseworld, Black Label stories that DC tells, where it's all your favorite people doing something that just can't possibly be canon, can't possibly be main continuity, and also probably is not going to be like, this is not going to show up in another 52 and be one of the universes. Like, maybe as like a cheeky little reference, but probably Batman is not going to need to drill down to this to get to the core of who he is. I really appreciate when DC does these stories, and I appreciate how hard they go sometimes. Like, I definitely get what you're saying about this, just like, this is kind of Klaus, to the point where for a second I was like, well, yeah, it's Klaus, because Grant Morrison didn't write that for DC. Whoops. Like, it's not, I was like,
Dan Mora, who drew the covers for this, did create and draw it with him.
Right. So, you know, and it's entirely possible that is intentional and with Morrison's little wink and nudge blessing. It's also possible that they are just little shits who did what they needed to do to steal somebody's cool concept.
You stole Santa!
How dare you?
How dare you?
No, them for stealing, not you.
No, I was with you. I'm like, how dare
okay.
you?
Yeah. Anyway, this is such like a serious, you know, this is a movie plot, but then like the movie plot is like the Justice League goes to fight this demon in this other world. You know, this is like the 4th or 5th movie in the Justice League, and then suddenly halfway through it turns out it's a Christmas movie. In a way that for me was fine and fun, because again, my expectations with DC, I'm not even a year into this yet. They're not built up. And it was cool to see Damian, Zatanna, and Santa. It has been cool to see Damian, Zatanna, and Santa running around being silly and goofy and fun. And I shouldn't even say silly, but like running around doing a mission. The idea that they're doing a mission is silly and goofy and fun, but the story is so straight-faced that actually might be a problem.
You know, I really love you pointing out Zatanna's presence and how it actually does kind of make it almost a little too straightforward. I don't know. I had one of the best experiences of like my fucking life reading the Wonder Woman Dammy issues from oh gosh, what was the name of the crossover that just gave us All In? Why can I not remember what it was called? DC crossover just ended.
Absolute
Power. Thank you so much. Jeez. That Absolute Power gave us that Wonder Woman Dammy story where he is just such a simp for a kind mommy who's still very strong and powerful. And then we kind of get it here with him and Zatanna, where he's kind of like, you have much magic and are strong. I love you. And like, I think there's something about the fact that it feels sort of like a regular issue of a DC comic at times that is maybe what makes it a little overwhelming. If you took Santa out and replaced him with new hero Ripcord, a guy who could pull the string on reality, it would just be a crossover event.
Yeah. Yes.
So I do see where that's a problem.
It's a problem. I'm put it this way: we're 2 issues in, and I would reserve judgment till the end. I'm not 100% certain it works, but it is fun. It's fun to see them play around and try and do stuff, and frankly, to do more than Marvel is doing. Like, this is a 4-issue holiday-themed miniseries. Whatever else should happen, it is that. And we get these kind of one-off, it's either not canon, or it really wouldn't matter if it was canon, or it is retcon canon that can't affect anything. Stories from Marvel a lot of the time, and they're so quick and they're so done, and I just what if the holidays did the thing and it's a 4-issue, bunch of what if holiday themed story? Like, give me something. Have some fucking fun with the holidays. Don't just put these out because you checked the calendar and realized it's December and you need to have done something.
And you get into that rut of, oh, well, December always comes out to a 5-week shipping month. So you need to have something extra. And if it wasn't December, you would have a regular annual. So maybe this year it's Christmas annuals. Yeah, it really did feel a little bit like, it did feel a little bit like the DC stories were less cultivated. I did feel like the DC stories were a little bit more slapped together than the Marvel stories, but I liked that there were more DC stories. Yeah. When you only have 3 stories, every miss is a third of your success.
Yeah.
8 stories, you're looking at 12.5%. That's a whole lot easier to work with. And with that value in place, I give Silent Night Returns sort of a B, because I don't expect too much from a Christmas title. But at the same time, I do expect a lot from Jeff Parker, and I had a good time with the first one. So I'm hoping that this one winds up generating a little bit more story content than I got from those first few issues in the second half.
Yeah, I feel you. I think for me, it's BB minus range in that way of, I always say, like, some things are get the grade because there's really terrible parts and really great parts. This is not that. This is nothing is terrible. Nothing is blowing me out of the water. It's really cute and really sweet, and I'm happy I read it for the holidays. Again, I threw on Save Ferris's Christmas wrapping and just read some Christmas comics today. That was really fun. That's really cute. That's I wish I was doing that every week with my big 2. And again, they could be Infinity Comics. I checked today because I hopped on Marvel Unlimited and I was like, maybe Nico and I missed that there's a holiday Infinity comic and we could get that in the mix. No. Nope. But
no, it's a Speed and Wiccan special Mephisto issue of Avengers
Academy. Yeah.
Academy, thank you.
Yeah. Avengers Assemble did come out today. Yeah, so I wish we were doing a little bit more of that. And for all that, I think you can understand why the Tales in DC's Batman Smells Robin Laid an Egg. Very cute, very funny title, you guys. I can't. This can't be the first time that has happened, is it?
I have to imagine that there's been stories called it, like the John Constantine one is called The Ghost of Christmas Past or something, and that's been the name of 1,000 John Constantine Christmas stories that had the exact same plot.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily even trying to be insulting of the writer who did a great job crafting this, to me, honestly familiar story. But I think we are at the point where, like, there probably has been something called like Marvel's Christmas Tales to Astonish, and we just don't remember it because at this point the vernacular only goes back 5 years.
Sure. Oh yeah, that's fair. But anyway, this to me, I like I said, I think you probably can see why some of these stories were not great in a way that I can't. For somebody who is new to DC, who doesn't always know the character, I don't know Vixen at all. I didn't know Dr. Midnight. For somebody who is coming to it with that level of knowledge, I did have a lot of fun. And again, like, this was not bad pizza. This was... My Marvel's pizza was a little better, but not so much better that just... The Marvel book is 32 pages. This one is 86. That is almost 3 times as long.
And it did not cost 3 times as much.
No. And they're just not 3 times worse as stories. You know what I mean? Like, they're maybe not all as... something. There's a lot of things you might say, but like, for my money, I think they were pretty close. And, I think at least 4 of them were pretty close. And yeah, this was the one I was really curled up with having my Christmas time today. Like, I did read everything, but this was the one I was really, really engaged because it's enormous. The Jon Stewart story is really cute and really sweet.
Except he knows Santa.
No, because this is not continuity. That's the whole point, Nico.
No, but that's
Why are you?
But that's what I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah.
I think where
You think there should be Christmas continuity specifically?
No, I think
Okay.
that they play fast and loose with what is and isn't continuity in this very vague way, which is where I feel like Avengers Academy is going to turn out to be vaguely not continuity, but whatever cool thing Dammy uses to defeat Krampus will be referenced in some run 6 years from now as this one time I beat this demon using this method, because they do those sorts of things. That's where I'm sort of frustrated, because like I feel like by that token, then why do we have a young hot Agatha Harkness?
What does that have to do with whether or not Jon Stewart knows Santa?
If canon is so sacred,
Yeah,
that no obscure thing that should never affect actual canon doesn't affect canon, then why is Agatha hot and young? Why is she hotter and younger than the hot and appropriately aged, hey mama, Catherine Hahn?
I partially think that is just artists not quite getting it. I think she is supposed to look like Catherine Hahn, but you know, artist stylized. But again, also, like, I still don't know what that has to do with Jon Stewart knowing Santa. Dumb it down for me. I'm a wee idiot baby.
Okay, brilliant captain. Which one of these stories is not in proper continuity, though not being labeled as such? Silent Night or the Jon Stewart story in Batman Smells?
I have no idea.
Okay, so then what do I do with either story?
You just enjoy them. You sit by the fire, put on Safe Ferris's Christmas wrapping, and enjoy them. And then you don't think about them again until next Christmas.
Okay, and I holiday hear that.
Yeah.
I
Oh my God.
hear
Anna
that.
Camp. Oh, excuse me? What?
But I talk to Anna Hand, okay? Because the Mike Dowdy problem I'm having here is that I think that we sometimes say that some stories don't need to hit certain levels of great. And I hear that, but isn't Superman for All Seasons and what is it? What do you get for the Man of Tomorrow or something? Like whatever the Alan Moore Superman Christmas story. It is I've read it. I just can't think of its name at the moment. But like, it's one of those things where you are able to create a story that becomes defining of a genre and becomes defining of a medium. You know, I joked about A Christmas Carol earlier, but fucked if everything in the world doesn't ape Christmas Carol, even not at Christmas. And sure, I know that Christmas Carol draws on a lot of inspirations from multiple cultures in order to achieve the idea of the ghosts and the identity of forgiveness and looking for absolution. But there is something about that we saw Bane in this achieve an emotional growth point. Is that not available to writers of Bane in the future? And then if it isn't available to them, do they have to retell it? And then are they forced to ape a story to move a character forward because the only time it was told was out of continuity? You gotta pick a lane, guys. You can't just walk three lanes over and bowl in someone else's lane.
But this is kind of what I've been saying about DC since we started this.
I don't know why, but at Christmas, it just feels wrong.
I love it. Thank you. This is all as long as we got here, that's all I want. I'm perfectly happy. Your point is heard. Your point is valid. And cheers. Cool.
All nice time.
Yes. I love it. Yeah. I don't know why Jon Stewart doesn't remember that he knows Santa. Hopefully,
he knows Santa.
Hopefully next year we will be writing the Jon Stewart Christmas story, and we can write about what happened after he met Santa, where he lost his Santa memories and retrieves them, bringing a trilogy full circle.
I love Jon Stewart and the Forgotten Christmas.
Yeah, come on.
This is it's an epic.
Yeah. Secret Six, really fun. Again, I know Bane because I know Bane, Bane. And I did know
Deadshot.
Yeah, I mean vaguely.
Everybody knows Deadshot.
But I did not know Scandal Savage. That was very amusing to me. This was really stupid. And so, who is this circus lady?
So I cannot think of her name off the top of my head. My apologies.
But it's not Marionette, right?
No.
Okay.
I think that is actually the one ding I would give.
Oh, Ragdoll.
Ragdoll, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And
I
Catman. Sorry, I'm talking over you.
Is so good in this, though.
Yeah.
He just looks handsome. Is just dumb. That's all Catman needs to do. And please talk over me as much as you want, because that's even part of my problem with the Secret Six story. It had a lot of really cool dialogue, and there were a few places that I could have used a little bit more exposition, just a little bit more, hey, this is this version of the Secret Six at the moment in this point in continuity, so you know who they are. I think that this was a really great story that exemplified why, if you go into these stories the way TK is describing and just having a good time with the idea of the book, worrying less about where it goes in continuity, it works. Because this John Constantine Ghosts of Christmas Present kind of gets filed in the real rote, real redundant area. This is literally every issue of Hellblazer. And so when I say I've read literally every appearance of John Constantine from his origin through the end of the Vertigo universe, backtracked 12 months, picked up DC New 52, moved forward from there, which means it's technically Convergence, The Search for Swamp Thing 1 through 3 that are the first appearances of John Constantine New 52. I'm ready to do my homework. And so then you jump forward, they recombine, etc. The problem I felt here was the art was fun, but not for this story. This story felt too familiar for me, but not just for John Constantine, for any mischief dude. It didn't feel like you hit on something exciting for John. It felt like you were telling a sort of recognizable bad Santa trope. And this just was not the story for me. It certainly wasn't the worst thing I read all month, but this was an example of somebody maybe getting to write a character they did not have a new insight on.
Yeah, I feel that. To me, same, and I don't know John Constantine the way that you do, but I know his basic gist, and
then you know John Constantine the way I do.
What if you knew John Constantine's basic gist and it was Christmas? And then the Christmas is
up, sis, it's Christmas.
And the Christmas is the Christmas story that 65% of all superheroes will experience at some point in their tenure being written through a Christmas story. I totally get what you're saying. I still found it really sweet and cute and fine, but it was not blowing anybody or anything away.
Wasn't it basically just the Joker story that came a second later, also about a familiar, recognizable ghost that's an iteration of meta plot?
The only thing with the Joker story is that it is just a Christmas Carol for the Joker.
And wasn't that just a Christmas Carol for John Constantine? So wasn't it just the same story?
No, it was different. For me, it was different. It was different. It felt different. But I get what you're saying. It is very you're just going to have to go through the motions until this fucking thing ends and it's Christmas. So yes, down to that very basic idea. You are just going to keep getting dragged through the story until the story ends and it's Christmas. Literally, they are both, that is what is happening. They are both getting dragged through the story. Yes. So yeah. Okay. Fair. Yes. But there were shades of nuance, of difference that made it okay for me. It's so funny. It's so rare in DC stuff that I'm being the apologist. But yeah, there were shades of stuff that was different. Yes, a Christmas miracle here. I did think this Joker story was very cute. I did see immediately that they were doing Christmas Carol. It was very funny the way they pulled it off and turned it out. Perfectly cute story, perfectly fine, and written by a woman.
It's important to remember that, what was it that we just read? Oh, no, it was the DC announcements where there were just no women.
Right.
So, hey guys, thanks for having
One
any
woman.
diversity, right? And I also want to say, furthermore, I love the diversity in the next story. There are not enough stories about living dead people who save minors. I love Boston. I actually do. I think he's a horrible character that I appreciate. Like, I think, when there's like characters that, like, when somebody's like, inside my heart, I am a Daryl from Walking Dead, you just want to be like, stay away from my family. And when somebody's like, inside my heart, I'm a dead man, I'm just like, just don't start relationships and you'll be fine. Boston is a very good disaster. He's a very sweet guy, but he's stupid. And by virtue of the inability to move characters too far from a certain expected range that they can operate within, he continues to operate in the same parameters over and over again. I don't necessarily think we're talking about an egregious misuse of a character, but this having the same plot as a 4-page section of the New Mutants graphic novel from 1982 is not the world's strongest indication that this is going to be a fulfilling holiday story. And I just did not get something special from this.
I also did not get something special from this.
Yeah, I remember you saying that at the top of the episode, and I tend to agree. This just felt kind of like we were going through not even holiday motions. We were going through, there was this period of time from like 2001 to 2015, maybe, where everybody who got one Wolverine story told a story about a guy who will never forget when he was walking to his car from his bookstore that he was attacked by Wolverine, who was in a berserker rage, having fought Mesmero or something, and he makes it to his car, barely surviving it. And now he's afraid every time he sees 3 fingers in the air and somebody says bub and he has a panic attack and falls over and has a heart attack. And who brings him into the hospital but Wolverine? And like, that was every single fucking Wolverine story for 15 years. It actually wasn't. Mine's better. You guys should hire me. But I'm joking. Mine's much better. So the thing about this that I think is interesting is it actually felt like one of those. I'm a bystander in somebody else's tragedy, but it's all about me. And I just didn't need Dead Man Christmas shoes in a mine.
Yep. Could not have said it better myself. I really disengaged for this one. I just wasn't into it.
I said a bunch about Dr. Midnight, Silent Night, so did you. I really do think it's a great noir story, but I just can't for the life of me figure out how it's a fucking Christmas story, and that's my real thing.
Yeah, this is one of those ones, and this is kind of like Dead Man too. Like, a couple things indicate that it is taking place on Christmas, and then it just is the story that it is, which is a good one. But like, maybe we do a little bit more. Maybe we
a couple of minutes of homework.
Yeah. Maybe we do a Christmas story and save this one for something like you said. Like, this goes in a Vertigo reprint, and like we do an actual Christmas story. Like, it sort of drives me nuts when people say that Iron Man is a Christmas movie. Iron Man is a movie where the setting is happening, or Iron Man 3 is a movie where the setting is happening around Christmas.
You're probably one of those curmudgeons that doesn't let Die Hard be Christmas. Well, I'll have you know, sir, that you can't stop my merriment. Pew, pew.
Die Hard does feel a lot
Iron
more like
Christmas.
a Christmas movie to me.
I saw a thing recently where not only is Die Hard a Christmas movie, it's a Hallmark Christmas movie.
Yeah.
He puts his career on hold to go back to his ex-wife's hometown to try and win her back.
That is pretty spot on, Kevo.
Also, like, Batman Returns to me is definitely a Christmas movie, but just for some reason Iron Man is not. I can't describe a Christmas movie, but I know it when I see it, and Iron Man 3 is not one of them. Can't describe Christmas stories, but I know them when I see them. Dead Man and Dr. Midnight are not. Vixen, I imagine, is. I don't know anything about this character, and it felt kind of like you did need to know one or two single things about this character to get into this story? Question mark.
Kevo, what you got?
I was actually just reflecting on Iron Man 3 as a Christmas movie. Not because it was a Christmas movie, but for the way Spider-Man 3 reflected Iron Man 3 having Christmas at the very end of Spider-Man 3. The Tom Holland ones.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
when the
set
coffee shops
Christmas.
sequence.
Yeah.
So whether or not it is Christmas, I do like that parallel, but yeah, they're not very Christmassy.
Yeah.
And to jump to the Vixen point, I've read Vixen in event crossover type stories. I've read her in passing. It's one of those things where you wind up feeling really embarrassed. If somebody said to me, "What do you mean you haven't read, I don't know, any Squirrel Girl?" I would be like, first of all, just so everybody knows, I am weird about Squirrel Girl, and I'm like obsessed and kind of like Squirrel Girl purist. It's weird, but I would be like, oh, okay, you just don't know this one random sort of obscure funny lady character. It sucks that you don't know this female character, but it's not the end of the world that you don't know this white lady that dresses up as a squirrel, right? That almost seems like a Julia Sweeney SNL character. So, like, I can't be too mad at you. But Vixen seems like a character steeped in cultural relevance. She clearly calls on the idea of spirit creatures and spirit forms around her, which is always sort of a religious or cultural sort of touch point in comics. The man she is with has face markings. There is a lot to this story that, whether I am reading too much into it or I am reading exactly what is into it, I'm sort of grateful that DC put it here, where the only real holiday element was sort of bound down to you give gifts in the winter. Like it felt really kind of easy. And one of the things that I did love was the laughter that I got from the idea that he was like, oh, I'm just going to give you a scarf. And she was like, I'm going to torture myself over what to give you. This human exchange of one person thinking they have to go overboard and the other person kind of not caring is not caring, but like just wanting to give a gift that they believe in, not stressing is the better term. I just thought it was a lovely story.
I love that perspective. Again, like I couldn't connect. And again, it just felt like I just didn't know this character at all. It really was a lovely story. And I was very glad to see a black character and then not have them do like a Kwanzaa moment. But then on the flip side of things, this is only Christmas stories, so I was maybe a little bummed that there's literally nothing else. But beautifully drawn story, really cool. I just wish I knew Vixen a little better.
I really get that. I think we all know Superman as well as you can know anybody.
Yeah.
Oh Glowy Night almost seemed designed for me.
Yes.
Mixie turned Superman into a star, and he could not help but sit atop a tree, and how I long to be that tree. But the bigger thing that I'm taking from this is that it's okay to have fun at Christmas in a story, not be saccharine. There was no saccharine here. There wasn't this idea that this was going to help somebody get their Christmas shoes. Yeah. This was just like sometimes bad guys who have awkwardly well-intentioned ideas, do dumb, weird, torture you shit. And like, this is just how your villains, your rogues will sometimes say, I love you. They torture you to say, I love you. And this clap on, clap off Christmas light in Clark, utilizing that Perry is a slap the desk kind of guy. My great uncle, who was my grandfather's twin brother. My grandfather died before I was born, so he was the stand-in grandfather. Served in Vietnam, was very Perry White, and slapped the table so hard every day we thought it would break. And so seeing it here was so funny, so real, so familiar, and that humor. The idea that Clark now has to secretly go every time somebody claps around him. That's so funny to me. And I just had a great time with what I thought was a superfluous but warm and well-intentioned story.
I I think you pretty much nailed it. The fact that it wasn't saccharine was pretty huge for me. Like, because I sometimes think Clark is a little saccharine. I think sometimes his good-naturedness goes to a point where I'm like, I don't even fucking care what you think or are talking about. And I often feel the same way about Steve Rogers, mind you. Like, it is a thing for the flagship guy, for the flagship large white man to kind of have to be that a little bit. And it's just not always my favorite. But yeah, this is obviously Superman cannot be glowing all the time. So there's a mystery afoot. We got to figure this out. But like, there's also like, oh yeah, I was trying to make you the light that people want during Christmas. You know, I was trying to make you the star. That's really cute and funny and Christmassy and like fun. And I know Mixie is like sort of a villain, but also kind of like
an adorable dumbass.
Yeah, and like a thing outside time and space. So like those roles even apply. So you know, perfect character to use. Very fun. Just overall, Superman being the star, like literally the light, the star in Metropolis's Christmas is very Christmas, very sweet, but as you said, not saccharine. And great. This was just really well drawn. Just overall really fun and a great capstone to what I thought was a really fantastic group of 8 stories at 86 pages to celebrate the holidays.
You know, it's one of the things that makes the holiday work for me. It's easy to kind of get lost in the idea that the calendar rules it all. It's actually the vibe you make it. If you don't read your holiday comics and you don't put on Underneath the Tree by Kelly Clarkson, you're not going to feel that vibe or whatever that version is for you. Sometimes for me, it's Pink and Glitter by Tori Amos and decorating my tree. Sometimes it's sitting and just playing Christmassy jazz standards on my piano. And it's what makes Christmas for you. I feel like while Marvel cultivated 3 better stories, DC did a better job making the vibe Christmas. And it's tough because I want them just to I want them both to just sort of dissolve not dissolve and not blend. I don't even know. I wish these 2 companies would learn better from each other and not let each other make the same stupid fucking mistakes. Because
have a summit and say, these are the things that you do that we get wrong. How do you do it? These are the things that you do that we get wrong. How do you do it?
Because the thing that happens isn't Marvel has a bad year, DC has a good year. It's comics has a bad year. It is the medium struggles to hit its numbers going forward. And that's a little bit where I wish these 2 companies would work a little bit more together.
Yeah, it's also DC has a bad year for representation of women. Marvel has a bad year for maintaining, you know, a certain hype for one of their biggest products. And then things switch and DC's got, you know, because up until that announcement, you know, I was looking at Leah Williams, I was looking at Teenie Howard, I was looking at all these women writing for DC, and then it just kind of appeared that their announcement of upcoming stuff just really didn't have enough. Meanwhile, Marvel does, which is fine. It's whatever. They've got a bunch of great women writing. Erica Schultz, you're just going to write the best Laura Kinney, and I'm so excited about it.
With Elektra on the second cover.
Yes, please, and thank you. But Marvel's got other issues that DC is getting right. And again, I think I can point to this and say, like, DC will release a ton of stuff that is sort of non-continuity, nonsense, weird, but it at least gets stories getting told. And, you know, DC will invest 8 stories into a holiday issue and Marvel will only do 3. And, you know, so they're both getting stuff right and they're both getting stuff wrong. And it definitely is not a matter of like, if only they could just become one company that got it all right. No, if only they could learn from each other and weren't doing stupid competition that doesn't matter because you're not competing with one other company that is the only other company that's at your level.
And it's even in that regard that I actually want to praise DC for something they do that I kind of thought that I'd be pissed about, but the more I see it happen, the happier it makes me. Originally, when I saw that DC Infinite retains the ads from every book since DC started releasing digital comics. I was shocked and kind of pissed. And now I love it. Now I know what else is going on in the DC universe around this. I can go look it up. I can see, oh, maybe this is why the Green Lantern is being weird, or this is why Batman's not in play. And I actually wish that the Marvel books had that now. So, in terms of like, what can you put in my stocking? Marvel, I swear to fucking God, you can give me more ads. Just maybe not in the way you're thinking. If every couple of pages is an ad for, and around this time at Marvel was this, I'd love it. That's a cool way to get me to pick other books. And like, if they're in the, you might want to click this at the end of the book, I'd be even more happy. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
All right. I had a great time. This was a Christmas episode. So I put on my Deadpool holiday sweater and, I was just ready to have a great time. This was maybe not the way I wanted to enjoy these books. I had a great weekend celebrating the start of the holidays in Vegas, and I maybe felt like the lit tree was kind of like missing from these comics. There was no like holiday warmth. There was holiday saccharine. There was gentle good times, but there wasn't any. I think about that one story. It was, I think, in either the Marvel, it was in the 2005 Marvel Holiday Special, where Emma Frost and Scott Summers taken Kevin, what's his name, Wither, and they give him a Christmas where he can touch Emma in diamond form, and he gets to have a beautiful, happy Christmas with a mom and a dad who love him, and it's so incredible. And I think about how that's not just emotional, and don't get me wrong, it verges on saccharine, but the other thing it does is it explores the idea of what holiday storytelling can be with real emotion behind it. I don't think a single one of these books hit that on some level. There was real emotion in Avengers Academy, there was holiday spirit in the DC books, but I never felt that realization of my so-called life, these so-called angels. Yeah. I never got that. I didn't get that moment of magic.
I hear what you're saying. I don't think you're wrong. And for as fun as it was, we could have improved a little bit for sure.
And, part of that has to do with Marvel needs to start hiring people to do these Christmas stories in like legitimately April. Yeah. If not the previous April, to make sure that the book is ready in time. And so it's easy for us to sit here in December and say, where's the merriment, motherfuckers? But hopefully this is an opportunity for Marvel to start having a seasonal special offices, and DC as well. Guys, remember, you guys are supposed to start having powwows about this, and pull together an office that can manage these things.
Yeah. Let's all really invest in the holidays if we're going to do anything.
Yeah, don't publish books that mean nothing. And in the effort to not publish minutes that mean nothing, I think we're at a great stopping point. We've had a great episode, talked about some amazing books, some unbelievable creators, and some amazing characters. Speaking of amazing, I would love to hit up our incredible producer, Kevo, who has kept this whole ship running so beautifully.
Get on in here, Christmas Kevo.
What up?
Christmas Kevo, my question for you is, what hero would you most like to find under your tree or in your stocking? And what hero would you give a great big lump of coal? And where can we find you?
Can I have Captain America under the tree and Spider-Man in the stocking?
Oh yeah.
Sure.
They'd love that.
Lump of coal, Brevoort.
He's a hero. You technically called him a hero, so it's not slander. Okay.
Oh, there you go. I did it. Good for me. And obviously the Christmas wish to have my voice back. So we'll see you next week.
And where can everybody find you?
You can find me on the socials, which is the only place I can speak. Kevo really. Someone else spell it for me.
KEVOREALLY. because we like you. Speaking of people we like oh so much, TK, my brother, my best friend, my partner in all of this, I would love to know who you want under your tree, in your stocking, and who you're giving that big old lump of coal.
Under the tree, we are going to put Christian Frost.
Okay. Looking all kittenish.
No, I want him looking like that one cover before Krakoa had really happened, where Bobby has rescued him and he's like a bear, and he's in the robe. We never got that guy. Let's get that guy.
Great ref.
Yes, thank you. So that's who's under the tree. In the stocking, we're gonna do who's like a cute little give me a pet.
Ooh, Lockheed.
I'll take Throg.
Okay. I love that.
Jeff. Sorry, it's got to be Jeff. Rivals is coming on Friday.
Ooh, good reminder.
So yes, thank you. It's Jeff in the stocking. And then who's getting a lump of coal right now? God, Kevo had the best answer. Who's getting the lump of coal? Mr. Sinister, because he took up so much time that we can't get back, that we didn't get to do the fun that I wanted to do a couple years ago. So I'm still mad at Nathaniel Essex and his various forms out of time and space, and go screw, dude.
I agree. Great call, both of you, identifying the villains of the last couple of years at Marvel.
So what do you got?
Wait, did you say where I can find you?
Oh, you can find me at TK Elemental, but not for long because I'm changing it. But for now, it's TK Elemental.
All right. Underneath the tree, I would like Akihiro.
Mm-hmm.
In the stocking, I would like Annalie. And I would like to give Xavier a big lump of coal for being such a big dumb target that they were able to make him the bad guy of Krakoa after all, when there were so many better ways to do it. Literally, Sinister ends the universe and Xavier is the bad guy of Krakoa. What a dumb. Other than that, you guys can find me on Blue Sky at Nico Action and ICOACTION, everywhere else too, I guess, but that's where I'm like really all about right now. Instagram and more. You guys can check out my music at Nico Action Music and ICOACTIONMUSIC. But this show you can check out at X is for Show, X is for Podcast, HTML, and more. We love bringing it to you guys all the time. And if you guys want to hear more of it brought to you guys can absolutely check it out by liking, commenting, and subscribing. You wouldn't believe how much our good buddy Albert Go Rhythm really appreciates when you guys do those. So do it for Albert. Give it to Mr. Go Rhythm.
Please.
Oh, by all means, please. Albert's a very nice man. He's just very judgmental. But 3 things you guys can do for yourselves, because that's actually way more important. Number 1, you guys can stay safe because it's a scary world out there. But number 2, guys, please be brave. We love who you are. Speaking of who you are, number 3, you guys can evolve daily. Who you were yesterday, amazing. Who you are today, spectacular. But who you are tomorrow, that is ultimate. And we can't wait to be there with you then. So stay safe and thwip motherfuckers.